Hey, welcome back to Woodworking with Wes. Today's segment is going to be a continuation of our shop buildup. We're going to be putting a workbench along this wall, but we have some issues we have to work around, and I'm going to show you how. And that's the same kind of thing you have to do when you build cabinets anywhere. The first thing you do is you address the problems and solve them. Let's show you how. Being as we're working in a garage, the first thing we have is an uneven floor. We're going to work on that. But we also have a footing and a base mold that goes along the wall. We don't want to interfere with those things as we are building our cabinet. And so our toe kick is going to be the first thing that we're going to work on. I have a little segment of the toe kick here that we're going to be building. Now you saw that we have a concrete floor, a concrete footing, and we have to work around those two things. We're not going to be able to nail a toe kick to the floor, and our cabinet is going to be 14 feet from end to end. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a toe kick in 3 sections. I'm going to be 7 3/4 inches high, but notice here I have some little blocks that I'm going to be putting on the bottom of our toe kick. So this is the face of the toe kick. This is a look at the top down into it. These little blocks here are going to be what I level under. So I'm going to be able to put some wedges underneath here and level, and I'll show you how when we get to that. These little blocks that are going to be on the inside of my toe kick are going to be for screwing the cabinets actually to the toe kick. These are the end pieces, and then these are the stretchers in between to make it good and solid. If you're looking right directly down on the toe kick, these lines here represent these little blocks up here that we're going to be anchoring the cabinets to. And we're building it 55 inches wide, so we have to make 3 of these in order to screw them end to end and make our toe kick the full length. I've listed my parts like I always do. 55-inch pieces, 11-inch pieces for the stretchers, 11-inch pieces for the little blocks that go inside. The depth of the entire toe kick, 12.5. Our cabinet is 22 inches deep, and this 12.5-inch deep toe kick will allow for a space behind the toe kick for the footing and a room in front of the toe kick for your toes. So let's get started by building these 3 pieces. We're going to put those together on the bench and tie them together end to end, and then I'll take you over to the wall when we put it down and show you how that works. I now have all my toe kick pieces cut to the size they need to be. I just went right down my cut list as I had drawn it out on our whiteboard. These are the fronts and backs. These are the stretchers that go in between. These are the blocks that go underneath. And these are the blocks that fit on the inside that will allow me to tie the cabinet to it. Let's go ahead and put one together and show you how it does. We're getting ready to nail together one section of our toe kick. 55 inches long. We're going to have an end piece that will go here and here. And then I marked where I want my center stretchers to go. And I put them there and there. And I marked that with my tri-square so that I have them straight up and down like they should be. My end ones will be nailed up and down because they're on the ends. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to be putting this together with just 18 gauge, here we are, with 18 gauge 1.5 nails. And that's all we're going to use to put it together. No glue, just 18 gauge 1.5 nails. And 5 nails in each part or each piece, and we'll line it up with the line that we drew on there as best we can, like that. this one here. I'm going to show you a little trick that I use a lot. When you're trying to make sure that you want this board perpendicular or square or whatever, if you'll just take one of the other pieces that is cut square and just put up against it and push on it a little bit, it squares it right up. It works great, and it's just a little way to go faster. There we are, and then I just turn it around like this. And take my other side. And go through and put the nails on this side. Now let me show you how these other pieces go. Once we're all nailed together, there'll be these inside blocks will be nailed inside like this. Not only does that help square it up, this gives us a mounting surface. When the cabinet goes on top, the cabinet will be sitting flush on this toe kick, and we'll screw through the bottom of the cabinet into this plate right here, pulling the toe kick tight against the cabinet. We'll have a mounting block, 2 mounting blocks per piece. Then when we get all done having that done, this piece will go on the bottom side and will fit like this, and again like this, probably in the middle like that. And this is where we use to put our shims for leveling, and this gives us a good solid surface to use our shims against to level our cabinet. So I'll show you that when we get that far. But this is basically how your toe kicks go together. By the way, if you didn't see my video on putting together my saw table, this works great. Watch that video, it's wonderful. Now that we have a couple of sections built, I want to show you how we're going to tie this all together into one big long toe kick and how the cleats on the bottom go on. We're going to just put these end to end and clamp them together. We nailed, like I said, we nailed this all together with 1.5-inch brads, but we're going to screw the individual pieces together with 1.25-inch grabber screws. Make sure you're flush, top and bottom there, front and back. Okay, you can see how we have the 2 pieces screwed together to give us the length that we're after. This will be a total of 3 pieces long when we're all done. This will be the top piece, the top side. We're going to roll it over like this. And then these blocks that I made to go on the bottom, we'll put one on the junction piece of the 2 halves. We're going to put one here at the end. We'll put one in the middle like this, and then we'll go the same way down. We're just going to nail these on, and this is where we will use our shingle shim to level. So this will be against the floor, and we'll use our shingle shims on there to level our cabinet when we level our toe kick. But I'm going to show you how we're going to do this over against the wall when we get this all put together. We have our toe kick all put together for the full length that we wanted and put basically into place. There's no way to screw to the floor or to that foundation piece there in order to anchor it securely. And so what we're going to do is we're going to now build the cabinets and mount the cabinets securely to our toe kick and level it all in one place. All as one piece, I should say. I put my long level on here and I can tell that my floor is not level. And so when we put our cabinets on here and screw this all together and level it all as one piece, then we can screw it to the wall, and that will give it a secure mounting to the wall and keep it level for our final installation. Now that we have our toe kick all done, I drew out what we're going to be doing for cabinets. And I want to go over it a little bit so you know what we're going to do, but I'm going to be a little more detailed when we actually get down to the construction of the cabinet. I'll do a better drawing and show you the detail of each cabinet. Our cabinet section is going to be 7 cabinets wide, and it's going to be a total of 168 inches. This cabinet right here is the center, and then these cabinets will be the same on both sides. So A, B, C, D, C, B, A, just like I have it listed. Our D cabinet is that side, and I've listed out the sizes. A, B, and C require 2 each. And so what we're going to do is we're going to get started by cutting up our white melamine that we're going to be using for our cabinets. And I'm going to come back and show you a better drawing of each individual cabinet so that you understand how I cut my parts and how they go together. And then we're going to assemble a cabinet and show you exactly what those pieces end up doing in their construction. Okay, I've done a larger drawing of cabinet A. The cabinet A goes on both ends, out the outside cabinet. It's 24 inches wide. It's 25 inches tall. Now remember, we have a big tall toe kick. That was what we built first, and so that's why our cabinet is only 25 inches tall. By the time we have a toe kick down here, we'll actually be the height of a kitchen countertop height of 36. And I've listed out my parts. My sides, so the both pieces on the sides, go all the way from top to bottom. 21.5 inches deep is the depth of our cabinet side, and we're 25 inches high. So we have 2 pieces, 25 inches high. The bottom goes in between, 21.5 inches deep still, and 22.5 inches wide. 24 less 3/4, and 3/4 is 1.5, so that gives us 22.5. Our rails, these 3 pieces right here, are 22.5, but they're only 5 inches deep because they are just the dividers between the 2 drawers, or between the 3 drawers, excuse me. So they only have to be just deep enough to provide us some strength. Let's go ahead and get cutting one of these out, and then I'll show you how we change the difference. Now, all of our cabinets, all 7 of them, are going to have 2 sides. So instead of just 2 of these 21.5 by 25 inch sides, in order to complete the whole cabinet run, I need to have 14 of these. And we'll get to that in a little bit, but I just wanted to let you know what each cabinet will require. And then when we get to each cabinet, it's just a variation of these 3 measurements. Our 14-inch wide cabinet will have a narrower bottom, but it will still be 21.5 inches deep. It will still have 1 rail that will be that. Our open cabinet that is going to be for our big storage pieces does not have any drawers, but it has a larger bottom, so 21.5 inches deep by the width of the cabinet minus 1.5, and then same thing, rails and supports. So let's go ahead and cut some melamine. Getting ready to cut our sheet, I have installed my 80-tooth triple chip melamine blade. I always take a piece of paper, sandpaper, and I sand off the rough edges of the melamine. This is a fused melamine product, but it has a little bit of a rough edge as it comes from the factory. I always cut that off, or sand that off. Our sides are going to be 25 inches tall, and that's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to take a 25-inch slice, and then we'll cut it into 21.5-inch widths. I'll do the same thing for the bottom. I'll cut a 22.5-inch slice and also cut it into 21-inch pieces. Now, being as this is a mill edge, I set my saw at 26. I'll take a 26-inch slice, turn it around, set it back to 25, and cut off my mill edge. So watch as I go through that part. Dust collector. I cut my 25-inch slice. This is my 22.5-inch slice. And I didn't have to cut a mill end off of my second cut because I had already taken that off. When I go back to cut my 21.5-inch widths, I'll have to do the same thing. I'll set my saw at more than 21.5, take one slice, turn it around, and cut it back to 21.5 to take off the raw melamine edge. I'm going to go ahead and finish completing my cutouts, and then we're going to come back and show you that I've got an edge band. We've got to edge band everything. I'll show you how we do our edge banding. Getting ready to put iron on edge banding. Now, iron on edge banding is just a pre-glued, heat-activated glue. You put it on your piece of material like this, take a hot iron, and just rub your hot iron across your piece of edge banding. Now, there are many different kinds, but we're using this white edge ironing on just because that works really well for what we're doing. You do that, get it all ironed on there, and you get it really good and hot, and then take a J-roller and roll along the edges so that you press it into the material, and you press that hot glue into the edge of your melamine stock, and it just really makes a good adhesion. And then we'll come back in a minute and trim it off. This is a paper type product, and so you just take it and I just lay it across my material here and then just break it to the length I want. And then we'll file and clean up afterwards. These are the rail pieces that I pointed out on my drawing. And so we're gonna put a banding on the edge of the rail pieces first. And you can see how easy it is to just make all your pieces cut to length first. You buy it in a roll like this. I like to do the little pieces like this for demonstration just because I can stand them up on edge. The bottoms and side pieces are a little harder to work with, but for demonstration, you apply it the same on any piece. And so just to demonstrate, if this is easier, again, making sure that you've got a good hot iron, and you don't want it too hot. You don't want it to burn your edge banding, but you want it to melt that heat activated glue on the back side and press down hard onto the edge so that it really pushes that glue into the edge of your material and makes a good bond. And then J-roller, and there you are. Okay, we've let this cool to the touch now a little bit. We still have a lot of edge banding to do, but I want to show you how we clean it up. Because this is a paper product, it breaks real easy, and I just kind of push it over with my thumbs and break the ends like that. And then I just take a file, and let me put a piece of wood down here so that I have something to lean against. You don't want to lay it down on this edge because you'll crumple that edge, so you want something underneath it. Anyway, I take my file and I file the edge. So I'm filing the edge like this to clean it up so that it's nice and flat. I do that both sides. Actually, I'm going to file it over here because you can see it better. All right, now I have the edge banding is wider than your stock, and so you need to clean that up. I just take my file and I just file along the edge there very carefully. You don't want to do it so fast that it rips it, but just peel it off. And I now have a flush edge with my banding. Turn it over and do the same thing on the other side. And there I am, all cleaned up. But I go one step further. This is 150 grit sandpaper. And I just take my 150 grit sandpaper and I just lightly sand that edge that I just ironed on to clean it. Then I go back and I lightly sand this corner, this edge that I just filed, and I just take it and kind of bend my paper a little bit like that so that it kind of just gently rounds. You can't sand very much because it's real thin material, but I'm just cleaning up anything that might be a little rough and just lightly bending my sandpaper around that edge. And I mean light. And now I have a nice smooth edge and no sharp edge. And there's my rail stock. just like that. And we'll go ahead and band everything that we cut out just like this. We have all of our pieces now cut and edge banded. I just wanted to go over it with you again. Sides, here's our sides, 221 by 25 sides. Bottom, and the rail stock, this, and this. And remember I told you I had two cabinets that were exactly alike. I went ahead and assembled one of them. Let me hold this up here so that you can see right next to it. Okay, our sides. So our sides, our bottom, the bottom, our rail stock, here, and then we had a back cut to fit. I'm going to leave this one up on the bench, and I'm going to assemble this other one right next to it so you can see how it all comes together. I'll put this right here, and let's start. Okay, I always start with my sides. There's my sides. Here's my bottom. Here are my three rail pieces. And you can see all of this has all been edge banded. This piece is a piece that goes on the back. It's a hanging cleat. So if you look in the back of the cabinet there, you see a hanging cleat. There's a piece on the top and a piece on the back. It's nailed together in an L shape. That gives me some support on the top for anchoring the top, and also a hanging cleat on the back. And because it's nailed together in an L shape like that, it adds additional support and squaring to our cabinet. Here is our 1/4 inch back. I'm going to set the back up here like this because that's our last piece and we don't need that just yet. I'll show you how we put our hanging cleat together. We don't edge band our hanging cleat. It's in the back, but we do use the white melamine. A hanging cleat, one piece is 3 inches, one piece is 4 inches. The 3-inch piece goes to the back, the 4-inch piece goes on the top, and I put it together like that. I make it flush from end to end and flush along the back, and I nail it together with my 1 3/4 wide crown staple. And I just go down the row, making sure that I'm good and flush along the back. This is just a utility piece in every cabinet, but it's so necessary when installing it against the wall and securing the top. So this sits in the back of the cabinet, screw to the wall, screw to the top. We'll set that off to the side for a moment. Our rails are one of the last pieces we do, so I'm going to move those up here for a minute. I'll get my 1.5 brad nailer, 18 gauge brad nailer. I put my cabinets together. All my cabinets are put together the same way. Now, I have been building cabinets for too many years that I don't want to count, over 45. And I've worked in several shops, and over the course of many years, I have come up with a system that gives me a quick assembly, but a good, strong, clean cabinet. So I'm going to show you how I do it. Again, like I say, my sides go all the way top to bottom. My floors and rails go in between. And my bench is nice and flat. I love my bench, by the way. My bench is nice and flat. I'm going to turn it like this so you can see it a little better. I line up the floor of my cabinet with the bottom edge of my side. I line it up and I make sure I'm good and flush. I put 3 1.5 18 gauge nails, one at the top, one just down about 5 or 6 inches, and then one at the bottom. And I just make sure my hose keeps wanting to run away on me. I just make sure that I'm good and flush. My 18 gauge 1.5 nails are for aligning. Now that I've got it all aligned and tacked into place, I come back with my 1 3/4" wide crown staple. And I put me some 1.5" or 1 3/4" wide crown staples in there. The staples actually are the main thing that holds it. Like I say, the 1.5" knit brads are for aligning purposes mostly. That really holds it together. That's a good solid joint, and it is quick and easy and fast to do. We do the same thing on our other edge. Here's our other side. We take and we set that up, and we'll tack that on with our 1.5" and go back and secure with our wide crown staple. I'll go that far. Okay, we have our 2 sides nailed to our bottom. The next thing we go to do is our hanging cleat that we just nailed together the very first thing. Now I'm going to turn this so you can see it a little better. Our hanging cleat, remember, our 3-inch piece goes to the back, our 4-inch piece goes to the top, and this is the top of our cabinet. This is the back of our cabinet. So we slide this in here like this, and we follow the same procedure. We'll put a couple of 1.5" brads in there and go back and secure with large staples. Okay, we have our hanging cleat nailed and stapled. Now it's time to begin our rails. We'll take our first rail. I always turn the smooth side down. When you cut, anytime you cut, you're going to have one side that is perfectly sharp and one side that has just a very minute little tear out. Even with a good melamine blade, you're going to end up with that. On my top rail, I turn that good side down into the drawer. On my other ones, on the other 2, I turn it up. That gives me the smoothest, cleanest look on the inside of my cabinet. Now, if you have a saw, like a panel saw that has a chipper, you can eliminate all of those little minute tear-outs totally. But we just have a table saw with a melamine blade, so that's the way we do it. Okay, same scenario. We anchor with our brads. I'm just making sure that I'm flush there, so I'm just give it a little bit of a pop. I put 3 nails. I'm going to go back now and put 2 staples in between, and I'll do the same thing to the other side. I make sure that I'm good and flush. Okay, and then get your fingers out of the way. Make sure I'm good and flush there. Three staples, and then come back, or 3 nails, excuse me, and 2 staples. All right, our top rail is in good now. Okay, next rail. Now here comes where the fun stuff comes. Okay, our next rail, our measurement on our next rail is 6 inches down. Rather than try to measure it and hold it square, I made myself a 6-inch cheater block. Now, if you've watched me do any of my cabinets, you know that I love little spacer blocks. They're the greatest because they measure and hold square all at the same time. Because this is perfectly square and square to this edge, when I put it in here and hold it tight to my top rail, which is square to the top of the cabinet, and then I put in my next rail, and again, like I talked about, turning my ultra smooth edge to the inside, into the top side. I push this in, we're tight side to side. I push it down flush so that I'm really good and flush with the side of my cabinet. And then I push this rail tight up against my spacer block. And now that rail is square. I give it 2 nails, only 2 nails so that I can line it up real good. And I take my spacer block, I turn it around, and I give myself a little mark down the side of my cabinet. And that tells me where to put my staples so that I'm stapled into the edge of my rail stock. Turn it around here. And we'll do the same thing on this side. We'll take our little spacer block, we'll put in there, we'll push our rail down here so that it's flush and pull it in tight against our spacer block. And spacer blocks are such a help when you're doing multiple cabinets and you don't have to go back and measure each piece. You can go a lot faster. Bring our spacer block out, set it down here, mark our line for our staples. 1, 2. Turn around. 1, 2. And now our rail. Let me turn that. You can see now our rail is in there, good. And we'll do the same thing for the second rail, the third rail in here that spaces. The only difference is this is 6 and our next rail is down 8. So our bottom drawer has an 8-inch space, our middle drawer has an 8-inch space, and our top drawer has a 6-inch space. Okay, there we are with our rails all installed, and the last thing we have to do is to nail our back on. We turn our cabinet face down. I have cut my back to be 1/16 of an inch narrower and 1/16 of an inch shorter than my cabinet. I do that so that I can, other way. I do that so that I can nail flush along the edge and flush along the bottom. And if I nail that all the way around, that again is part of holding my cabinet really good and square. Which if your cabinet is good and square, that makes it easy for your installation. I use 3/4 inch small crown staples, just nailed through the back to anchor my back. And like I say, I just make sure as I go along the edge that I'm good and flush. And so we'll nail this all the way around and the back will be installed. Okay, there I go. I have my 2 cabinets that go to the outside all put together, and you can see how they go together just perfect if you follow the rule of every cabinet is the same, just the expanding differences. So I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of them put together, and then we have some assembly on our wall to do. We have our assembly all done. This is cabinet B. So cabinet A is the one that I just went through and showed you how to do. This is the cabinet that will be next to it, one at each end next to cabinet A. This cabinet, however, I didn't put the drawer in because we're going to install a vise. Now, I bought this on Amazon. It's a Yoast vise. It's one of the many that they have available online on Amazon. This is one that is very heavy duty and I liked it and the price was very good, and so I'm going to provide you with a link to that. It requires some additional blocking to go in here to anchor. I'm going to go through and do my math and read the instructions really good so that I get it right. I want to make sure that the vise, top of the vise, is flush with the top of my countertop, which is 3/4 of an inch more here, but I'll go ahead and get all of that ready to go and then show you how I had to put it in and how I have to anchor it. After reading the instructions on our vise, we determined the amount of blocking that I needed to add was 2 inches from the top rail that we had in. I added 2 thicknesses of 15/16 solid wood and a little 1/4 inch piece of MDF in order to make up that difference. I marked it where my vise is going to go, and I pre-drilled some holes, and we're going to be anchoring it with a large washer and a lag bolt through the anchoring holes. And so this is a very heavy vise. We wanted to make sure that we really had it where it belonged, and I've blocked it up off of the bench so that it fits where it should be. it'll be able to bolt down tight. Okay, the marks that I have made center it, so this will keep it nice and centered. We're right there. I'm using 2.5 inch by 5/16 lag screws with a large washer. And we'll just go ahead and get one started here and show you how that goes. If I was a mechanic, I would have a nice air-powered impact wrench. But being a woodworker, this is how we do it. Now, before I tighten that down all the way, I want to make sure that we are back as far as we it could possibly be. And I'm sorry my hands are in the way. Okay, let's go a little bit again. I need an extra hand here. Okay, there we are, just like that. So we will take, there's 4 places, there's 2 in the front and 2 in the back, like that on each side. We'll go ahead and get those tightened down, and then we'll have our vise all set to go. Well, we're all installed. I just wanted to show you a little bit about this vise. This is our cabinet. This will be our countertop. So we're just down just a little bit, but I'm going to be putting some wood. Let me show you one thing. This has a quick release. I could bring it out like that. We're going to be putting a wood plate on both jaws of our vise so that when we clamp things together, it'll have a soft wood to clamp against it. And you can move this in and out for quick release and quick wind in. But that's a very nice heavy-duty vise. We're excited. Okay, let's get started on putting our cabinets together. Before we actually screw the cabinets together into the wall, we're going to install the drawer guides because it's easier to do that on the bench. We are using a ball bearing full extension drawer guide. These also come in full soft close, but I'm not using soft close just because this is out in my garage. And I'm going to show you a little jig that I made that makes the install of these very easy. First off, this is laying on its side. This is our 3-drawer cabinet laying on its side. From the bottom of the cabinet to the top here where the drawer guide goes is 8 3/4. To the top, from the bottom of the drawer guide to this one is 17 1/2. So what I did is I cut me a piece of wood that was 8 3/4 by 17 1/2. I took a little notch out of it, and I'll show you the little notch, the reason for the little notch. The reason I use this is because I space off of the bottom of the cabinet, and you got to start with the top drawer first because you don't want anything in the way. So you put that there, and you push your drawer guide down tight to your mounting jig. And what that does is that keeps your mounting of your drawer guides consistent. If this is by chance not exactly right, and it should be right, shouldn't be a problem ever, but just in case, this little jig makes sure that the mounting of your drawer guides is perfectly consistent all the time and also perfectly level. So we bring our drawer guide out, and then we put 3 screws in the mount. Oops, I got a screw on there, just bent away. All right, hang on, there we go. We put 1 screw in the center. Make sure you're in the center of the hole, center of your drawer guide. There you go, like that. Also continuing to apply a little bit of pressure. 1 in the back. And then 1 in the front. And these drawer guides have little slots conveniently located so that you can line up and get a screw into your front hole there on the front of the drawer guide, the front hole in the drawer guide. And there's your drawer guide mounted. You pull your jig away, you push your drawer guide back and make sure that it's running smooth, and put it back in there. Okay, now comes the second drawer. All right, now we turn our drawer guide to the 8 3/4 measurement, and the little notch goes underneath our rail piece. Same thing, take our drawer guide, put it in here. Now the front of your drawer guide, right here, the front of your drawer guide goes flush with the face of your cabinet. Okay. Pull it like that. Make sure that your drawer guide is flush with the face of your cabinet. Hold it down tight. Oops, let me get my screw gun here. Hold it down tight against your jig so that it's nice and flat. Check your spacing against for the front of your cabinet. And then screw in the center of your drawer guide. Screw in the back of your drawer guide. And screw in the front of your drawer guide. Right there. Pull your jig out. Nice and tight in there on that one. Make sure your drawer guide runs smooth back and forth. All right. And then your last drawer guide just goes against the floor of your cabinet and mounts the exactly same way as you did the other ones. So you end up with your drawer guides all level, all consistent, and all mounted before you install. Okay, we're now getting ready to do our install on our wall. I have positioned the toe kick where I want it in relationship to the wall. I have marked the center, and then this is our center cabinet. I'm going to show you a little bit about what we're doing here on our install. If you come over here, you'll look, I have marked 2 lines on my toe kick. Here's our mounting block. This cabinet will go up against those 2 lines. From the face of the cabinet to the face of the toe kick is going to be 2 3/4. So I'll slide this back till it's 2 3/4. And then I have marked on the floor of my cabinet the area that I can put a screw into. And I'll do that all the way down. But let's go ahead and get our first cabinet anchored, and then I'll show you how we put the cabinets together and move down the line. We're now getting ready to put our next cabinet in. Now I measured from our cabinet over to where our mounting block was, and I took that measurement and I wrote it down on my cabinet so that I can measure on the inside of my cabinet. When I get ready, I have to put screws between 13.5 and 18.5 on my cabinet. So what I'll do here, slide these cabinets up tight against one another. Make sure they're flush on the front and flush on the top. We're going to put one clamp on the top and pull it tight. And we're going to put one clamp up high. And then we're going to put one clamp down low, making sure that we're flush top and bottom. And we've got to bring the back side up a little bit in order to bring the top and bottom in flush. Cabinets clamped together. I'm going to screw them together from the drawer side in. I've already put my top screw in. I'm going to put another one right here. And then one down low. And then I'm going to put one screw on the top side here, right at the top of the cabinet. Now the cabinets are tied together. And like I say, I want to make sure that my toe kick is 2 3/4. So I've got to push my toe kick out a little bit and my cabinet back a little bit. And there I am, 2 3/4, just like that. So that measurement is right. I'm going to go back here to my measurement that I wrote on the top of the cabinet, 13 1/2 to 18 1/2. I'm going to measure from the inside of the cabinet, 13 1/2, 18 1/2, and I'm going to put 2 screws through the bottom of the cabinet and into the mounting block. What this does is this pulls the toe kick tight to the bottom of the cabinet. And when I get all done, I will put screw caps over the top of these screws so that it's nice and clean on the inside. Okay, I'm going to complete the same thing the rest of the way down. Let me show you what our next cabinet is, this one, and then our final cabinet is our stack of 3 at the end of our run. And so as these get pushed into place and tied together, this end of our run will look like that, and the other end of our run will look exactly the same. We'll have the toe kick tied tight to the cabinets and the cabinets tied tight to each other, and then we're going to level this all as one unit and tie it to the wall. We now have our cabinets all screwed together. We clamped and screwed them together just like I showed you too. We have gone, and after we tied everything all together with screws and tied to our toe kick, you can see where I've used shingle shims to level our cabinet, and we leveled it all as one piece. When we got it all level, you can see I still have my levels up here. When we got it all level, we screwed it to the studs in the wall all along and anchored it good to the wall. So our cabinets are all screwed together, screwed to the wall, and we're ready now to install the top. This is the material that we're going to be using for our top. It's a piece of wood-grained melamine that I purchased. So it's still just a melamine, slick melamine surface. On the underneath side, I have nailed some cleats for anchoring blocks, for screw blocks when we put it down. I'm going to walk this over and show you how it goes on our cabinet. And I had to make it in 2 pieces because our cabinet is so long. Okay, this is the way our top fits on. There'll be this piece and another one in there. I will anchor it by screwing through this top rail of our cabinets into our mounting blocks. When I'm all done, I'm going to put a piece of 1.5 inch solid wood on the face of it, probably oak, that will give us a nice face to our countertop. Let's go ahead and get our top put down. Okay, we now have our top installed. We haven't put our wood edge on yet. We're going to do that in just a minute. But we're going to head over to our outfeed table, which is now doubling as my workbench, and we're going to build the drawers that we have for our cabinet. Here's one of the drawers that we're going to be using. I'm going to show you how I went through and built this drawer. We'll put that off to the side. We went ahead and cut our parts to length. Our drawer guides are 18 inches, and so our sides are 18 inches. Our overall width is 1 inch less than the opening for our drawer. So if we look back here to our cabinet, our opening was 22.5 inches wide. Our drawer is 21.5 inches wide. By subtracting the thickness of 2 sides, that gives us the length of our front and back. Now we're going to go ahead and nail this together, nail on the bottom, and these are the little drawer guide pieces that will be added so that it finishes it out. But let's go ahead and put it all together. You just watch. We're going to be nailing our drawer together with 1.5 inch 18 gauge brads. And we're just going to do a butt joint. This is a construction method that I have used for years. It's quick, it's fast, and it's really quite strong, and I've never ever had to go back and repair a drawer that came apart because of this construction method. We nail our side on like that. Come around to the other side, same thing. No glue, just nails, and it is amazing how strong and durable this drawer is. Like I say, I've never had to go back and replace them. Okay, there is the box itself. This is 5/8 pre-finished Baltic birch, and for the bottom I'm just using a 1/4 inch wood-grained melamine that matches the color so that I don't have to finish this at all. It'll all be finished when we're all done. We just nail the bottom on. Because this is a side guide, drawer guide, we don't have to make a recessed bottom like we would for an undermount drawer guide. This drawer is much simpler to build. The drawer bottom is just nailed onto the box, just like we're doing right here. I'm using 3/4 inch narrow crown staples, and I'm giving plenty of staples to make sure that it's held in place. Okay, there's the bottom, there's the inside of the drawer, nice, clean, smooth, but we've got to do a little bit of work to clean this up, so let's do that. I turned my drawer upside down on my sanding pad, and I'm going to take my palm sander with an 80 grit sandpaper in it, and I'm going to just sand off these staple marks so that they don't have any rough edges. With those sanded off, I'm going to take an older piece of sandpaper. This is still 80 grit. I'm going to go around the bottom edge like this and break that sharp edge of melamine. I don't want any sharp edges. Okay. I'm also going to take this piece of sandpaper and just catch that sharp edge on the cut of my 5/8 Baltic birch. It just makes a little nicer drawer. Isn't necessary, but I don't like the sharp edges. Okay, so now we have the sharp edges taken off the bottom side. Now let's work on the top side. We're going to take our trim router with a 1/8 inch round over, and we're going to go around the inside and the outside with our router bit. I'm going to let you in on a little secret with Baltic birch. Baltic birch has a tendency to tear out a little bit as you route. And so instead of pushing into the cut like you would normally do with a router, I go backwards first and eliminate most of my cut and then go back and clean it up. And that way I don't have the tear out that Baltic birches typically have. Okay, now I take my piece of paper again. And I go around and I sand that route that I just did. Inside and out, take off any of the rough edges. And I go all the way around with my 80 grit. Then I come back with a piece of 150 grit. Wrong piece. This is my piece here. And I go 150 all the way around with the same thing. That gives me a nice, smooth, clean, routed top edge. And there's your drawer. Nice, clean, ready to go. Now this is a raw wood edge. You've got a pre-finished side. So if you wanted to rub some tree wax on that edge to clean it up a little bit with a little bit of a finish, you can do that. I don't, doesn't need it. But there you are. There's your drawer all put together. To install the drawer guide part on here, we put it flush with the front of the drawer and flush with the bottom of the drawer, and then just use our small screws. We put one in the front, one in the back, and one in the middle. And there's our drawer guide. Go ahead and put the drawer in. We pull the drawer guide out. This part of the drawer guide fits inside of the ball bearing track of our drawer guide that's in the cabinet. And we just slide it in like that. Push it all the way back. And then, ooh, that fits tight. And then we pull it out to make sure that it's caught. And it is. These are not self-closing. I'm not going to need self-closing for the shop. But there's our full extension drawer all installed. We're getting ready for our door and drawer face installation. I wanted to show you what we're going to be doing for doors and drawer faces. It's just white melamine, 3/4 inch, edge banded on all four sides. And the edge banding is just iron-on edge banding like we did on the cabinet. And then it will be attached to the face of the drawers. We're going to attach a drawer face to our drawer. This is the bottom drawer for our stack of drawers. I'm going to turn it face down. Here is our drawer. I'm going to put it on like that. Now, our drawer guide is a 1/2 inch, and we're going to be lipping over 5/8 of an inch. So that means 1 1/8 on each side of the drawer to the end of the drawer face. And I'm going to turn this like this so you can see. These are 1 1/8 pieces. I put them on both sides and just hold them flush. And that centers my drawer. So I'm all centered, ready to go. I've also measured the bottom of my drawer from where I want my drawer face to hit the face frame to the bottom of the drawer itself. This is my little spacer stick, and that's the way I do it. I just make spacer sticks. So I put my spacer stick on the bottom there. I use my side spacer sticks to center. I make sure that I'm flush, 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 flush. I take it over to this side. Okay, I wasn't right where I needed to be, so this helps me make sure that I'm all even, and I don't have to measure because all my spacer sticks do all the measuring for me. I just make sure that everything is where it needs to be, and my drawer face or my drawer is now perfectly centered and spaced on my drawer. Then I attach with 1 inch small crown staples, and I put 4 staples on the inside of my drawer. Let me turn this so you can see. I take my small stapler. Let's make sure that I'm still where I'm supposed to be, being as I moved. There. Oh, yep, see, I moved it. Okay. This allows me to check my measurements with my spacer stick. Okay, we're still good. We're still good. And we're good. And then I put a small staple in each corner of my drawer. That allows me the opportunity, when I put this drawer back in the cabinet, if it needs to be fine-tuned, I can take my rubber hammer and just tap. ever so slightly, whichever edge I need to, and make sure that my seams line up the way they're supposed to. So I'll go ahead and put all of the stack together, and then I'll go through and make sure that all my seams are lined up exactly where they need to be. Then I'll go back and I'll put an anchoring screw through the drawer into the drawer face for my final assembly. We'll push it all the way back and pull it out, and there we are. We'll go ahead and get all of the doors and drawer faces on, and we'll come back and show you how it looks. The hinge that we're going to be using to put our doors on our workbench are just pocket hinges. They have a self-close mechanism. I bought a little jig that helps you drill the holes, because you have to drill a hole. It has to be precise. This little jig mounts to your drawer, if this was a door. This is a practice piece, but I'm going to show you. You mount it here. We've set it up correctly so that it has the correct spacing. This little clamp here holds it to the back side of the door. So let's put it here. Then you put this on your drill bit. Here's the drill bit that drills the hole. And this is a centering jig that you slide in there, and then you just put it down. Now I'm going to go ahead and drill this hole, and then I'm going to talk about this jig. It has a depth a measurement there that we can set the depth. I didn't drill the hole all the way. I wanted to show you. There's the hole that it drills, and it would drill the rest of the way deep enough for the hinge to fit into, and the hinge goes like this. I purchased this jig from Amazon. I got it set up correctly, and I must tell you that there were several of these that looked very similar, red and black. They were a variety of prices. I read the reviews, and the reviews were as good as any on this one, so I purchased it. I'm not very impressed with the way it works. This is not something that I would recommend. I'm not going to make a link to this jig. This is the way it works, and we did okay, but I'm still hunting for a better jig for my hinge pockets. Here's one of our doors. We've drilled for the hinges, and the hinges fit like this. And I'm going to show you a little trick that I use. One of the things that you need to do to make these hinges work correctly is they've got to be in line. If they're cattywampus like this at all, the door doesn't close as well because the hinges bind. And I have found that if I just put a little straight edge of any kind from hinge to hinge, and then put my screws in there, that I end up with a better, once you get the first ones in, then you go back and finish putting your screws in. And there's our door hinged. Let's go ahead and put it on our cabinet. I've already got the mounting plates put on, and I've even put on some of the doors. So let's go show how it goes on. These are face frame style mounting plates. I use them because I like the fact that they lip over the edge of the door, or the edge of the frame of our cabinet. And these hinges just fit right on there. Click on, and click on, and there's your door. Soft close. I purchased these hinges from my wholesale hardware supplier that I use for my cabinet industry, but I'm going to see if I can find a good hinge from Amazon, and I'm going to provide you with a link so that you can have a hinge that you can use. Well, we have all of the doors and drawers on, we have all of the hardware on, and I just finished putting the little wood edge on the top of my countertop. Let me show you up close what I did. It's just 3/4 of an inch wide, 1.5 inches tall, with a chamfer edge on it. A chamfer is just a 45-degree cut, and so that made a real nice edge for my top, and we're all done. We're ready to use this. We're going to use this for some of our benchtop tools and of course put all my stuff away. We hope you've enjoyed this part of our new shop build. I want you to stick around for the next part and we'll see you then on Woodworking with Wes.